by the name of Jojo Abot, and a few lyrics in the song go. Hang on a second. Gomechichi. Kuvenyenye. Kuvinyenye. Eji 3
Amenkube
makbo. And that's Ghanaian.
That's Ewe, yes.
That's Ewe. Yes. So that's one of the languages in
yes.
the Ghanaian footprint.
Yes, but you find that people in Togo, Benin, Cote d'Ivoire also speak Ewe.
Is it?
So it's migrated quite a bit.
So you were narrating for us the concept of the song on your EP.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Fifia Woto is a 4-song EP, and it tells the narrative of a young lady, Fifia Woto, who's caught in a compromising situation with her Caucasian lover in a time of slavery in Ghana. So it starts off with Toli, which is the beginning of the narrative where the townspeople are saying what they saw and basically incriminating her, down to Lelele, which is the song you just heard, in which she's basically sold into slavery by her father.
Yeah.
And so it's actually quite a somber song. Like, he's bargaining for her. He's basically saying, she's quite thick, you should pay me more because she weighs more. And her mother is basically pleading for her release, but her father is eager and keen to sort of send her off as punishment for her crime.
Kommanda Obbs, your song is in Dodumela.
Yes.
What's the concept behind that one?
It's more of a war cry, actually.
Yeah.
It's inspired by all the fallen heroes, predominantly in the African continent, and Moshoe, obviously myself coming from Lesotho.
Yeah.
Yeah, putting them up in front. So it's more of the war cry, more like bring it on, but I'm putting myself on the line as the first person in the story.
Yeah.
It's more of your story where I actually engage in a battle with some of my enemies, and it's a deep story about hatred and betrayal and a whole lot of things. But in the bigger scale, it's really about the wars and the reason why our leaders ended up fighting and maybe sacrificing their lives for us.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we're very similar. We're black, all of us. Lerato, yourself, Jojo, Kommanda, myself. We're black in studio, right? Including Lerato's guests today. But we're very different. We're very diverse. How important is African identity and personal identity as an African to you?
Well, it's quite important. I mean, for me, I think I should speak for myself. Starting up with this whole music thing, it's always been difficult to crack it, obviously, because we were expected to follow trends, you see.
Yeah.
So standing out and actually embracing your traditional elements was a bit far-fetched as far as making it in the industry is concerned, or at least having your say. So by the look of things, I think this is more of a revolution. It's pretty obvious that by now everybody's actually embracing who they are. So it's very important. It's pretty obvious to everyone that this is that particular age where it's the information age where it's about knowing yourself and your identity. So I think it's very important to know yourself.
Jojo, your thoughts around the matter?
Well, I think I first identify as human first, and then from that, you have the identity of me being a woman, because obviously I possess the physical attributes of a woman.
Of course.
And then being a Ghanaian, and then being an Ewe, and then being an African, and then being black, depending on what space I'm in. So I find that a lot of my identities that I come into contact with are either imposed or adopted. Right, so my identity is established by you and it's established by me. That doesn't mean that your identity, that you perceive my identity to be against sort of what your identity is valid any more than what I think myself to be. I identify with all of these aspects that come together to make me who I am. But I think these are sort of just some sort of privilege that I have to be able to say I'm African, to be able to say I'm Ewe, to be able to say I'm Ghanaian, because these aspects of my identity give me access to certain spaces. On the other hand, they can keep me from having access to certain spaces. Right, so it's a negotiation of one's identity constantly.
Is that imposed deprivation from those accesses that you're picking up on?
Absolutely.
Or is it self-imposed?
I think it's both.
Both.
It's outside as well as on the inside. So it's a constant negotiation of your identity, which aspects of your identity you choose to have thrive and exist very loudly versus when you decide to mute certain aspects of your identity. And we pick and choose whether we do it consciously or subconsciously. So based on that, I just choose to exist as human first. And then where the benefits come in to highlight other aspects of my identity, I choose to thrive off of that. But, you know, identity, we have this illusion of like, be yourself. But even becoming oneself requires education, right? The act of learning and becoming. It's not, you don't just become yourself today. It's a journey towards self-discovery, right? So identity is both established and still fluid. And that's what I enjoy about my identity, the idea that Fifi Awoto is a constant state of evolution and being open to being fluid in the evolution of one's identity.
I love how you both express yourselves. I really do.
Thank you.
I really do. I appreciate the strength in how you are so different and you're comfortable with being different. So, Kommanda Obbs, you're performing at the baseline?
Yeah,
Chat about that?
Opening. Yeah, man, it's quite an honor to actually open up for Damian Mali.
Yay!
You know,
Damien
it's
Murray's
funny.
in the building.
The building is in the country, actually. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's funny, I was talking to one of my friends a few months back about speaking things into existence, and it's funny, it was a time we were listening to Distant Relatives, Nelson Damian Mali's album. I think it was 2010, and religiously would listen to that album, and what do you know, next thing I'm opening up for him.
Hey,
so
man.
you can imagine, man.
Hey, man.
I'm quite excited. And then on Saturday, we're doing Africa Day concert at Nazareth alongside Jojo, Abot, it's the same one, I think, Petit Noir, a whole lot of artists actually. And then on Sunday, we're doing Zakifo in Durban alongside Petit Noir, and obviously headliner being Damian Mali. So yeah, I'm quite excited about it. And the nerves, you know, they started to kick in already, but yeah, man, that's the reason we're doing this.
Jojo, for people that have never been to Ghana, what is it like? You know, because not everyone gets the opportunity or has the privilege of traveling to other countries. So if you can, you know, just in a nutshell, give us an idea of the feel, what it's like.
I think, you know, actually having left Ghana gives me a lot more perspective as to what Ghana is like. So Ghana is, the western end of Africa is very, very rich in culture. Very, 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 very rich in culture. So you get into Ghana and you immediately see it. You see that you're in Africa. You feel that you're in Africa. The
What is
language
it that
is
you
in it.
see?
It's the fashion. It's all
The textures,
Yes.
the layers, yeah.
It's you know, and I never understood that until I especially started visiting East Africa.
Yeah.
Ghanaians and Nigerians are obnoxiously African.
Oh yeah.
to be honest, I didn't realize this
Oh, yeah.
until I was like, we are really just on our thing. Like, we want you to know, loud and proud,
Oh, absolutely.
that we are from these places.
Africanism on steroids.
Oh yes, on steroids.
Yeah.
So, you know, you come into Ghana, you hear the different languages, almost immediately Tree, you hear in Accra. The women are dressed in traditional garments, you know, just the interaction, the way we behave, the man sitting on the side of the street singing, you know, it's rich in culture. It's like a narrative, it's a film all the time.
Oh, I like that.
Ghanaians are overly nice, and yet in some ways, we're just with an undertone of aggression. So there's road rage, which is very comical.
I think that's
But
a human
yeah,
thing. I feel like that's a human
everywhere.
thing.
It's hilarious. Ghanaians
in
will pop.
Nigeria.
Have a conversation with
Nigerians
Afrikaans men
Hey.
about road rage. It's the same thing.
Nigeria, I think actually we are better. Nigeria is, it's insane. It's on steroids.
Nigeria, there's actually traffic, so you can take your time to argue.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
You're like, we have 3 hours. We might as well just get this out of our
Put up a
system.
tent. Yeah.
Put up a tent and get going. You know, so we're spoiled for culture, which is really nice. Very rich and heavily burdened history. A lot of unresolved issues around that. But you know, when the Ghanaian underground space decides to make music, we have a lot to talk about. So we're in to a large extent aware of who we are, but we also have a long way to go.
Yeah. With the current xenophobic attacks in South Africa, how has that affected you as an artist? And this goes for you also, sir.
I find that prejudice and bias exists in different social spaces, oftentimes inspired by this need to find someone who's the other. So in some spaces you find that your body is abused because you're a woman. Other spaces because you're queer. Other spaces is because you're black, you're white. Again, identity coming into place, perceived or otherwise. I find that oftentimes when we inflict abuse on another person's body or their space, it's out of dissatisfaction within ourselves and our
absolutely.
occupation of space. So when that happened, it pointed to a larger issue of greater dissatisfaction that was embedded in years of slavery and appetite and this longer and larger history that's unresolved, right? And again, I don't have the authority to speak on it. This is just my
Your opinion.
my opinion. But I think it just opens wounds that are not healed but are layered and deep, and it shows that a lot of things are unresolved, and that's what scared me,
True.
that things were that unresolved.
Okay. Kommanda?
Yeah, to second what Jojo just said, it's actually something that I feel has been embedded a long time ago, and we still have a long way to go before we can get rid of it. I think it's a matter of generations, you know, and the fear of really the system, or maybe hating ourselves, or maybe feeling like we are superior, like, or rather inferior, like we've been told. I think that's the biggest problem. The system has really been too hectic on us. I mean, the borders that have been drawn, the bigger problem cannot be solved within just a few years. I think it's going to take generations. But like I said, I see a revolution of Africans being woke, you know, or being really out there. So I think within a few years' time, we will start seeing the truth that beyond anything, we'll complain, we'll talk about xenophobia. But I think the bigger question is the borders, you know what I mean? The borders that we didn't even draw. So I think, yeah, we can beat about the bush, but the bigger picture is the borders. Are we comfortable with these borders that are drawn for us and we're told to live within them, you know?
I tell you what, though, we're going to cancel those borders on the bridge between 10 a.m. and 12 in the afternoon. We're totally like doing away with the borders. We're doing away with the weight of unresolved issues, and we're going to go in and keep a border-free show where we play absolutely African music, and we're going to celebrate.